Actually, I did something wrong here, so I'm going to put the spaghetti back in here because I was a little anxious, but that's all good. I'll put some of the spaghetti back, and then we'll get it working. And there'll be other spices that I'll put in a minute. Whoops! Hey Warriors, it's me, Martin Salama, the architect of the Warriors Life Code. Life stands for live incredibly full every day, as you know. And I decided to do something a little different today. And I'm going to be cooking because we're going away for the weekend. Today's Thursday. We're going tomorrow to Maryland to visit Sarita's son, Moses, my stepson, who's in University of Maryland. The Hillel there is having a weekend for the parents, so we're going to go. And we're going to have a meal by one of Moses' friends, so we decided to add something to the meal. So I'm making a traditional Sephardic dish, Syrian dish, called chicken and spaghetti. Now, you might not know this, but I love to cook, and there's a whole story behind that. So as I'm starting to do some of this preparation, I did some of it before. I made this spaghetti in advance. I made the first part of the chicken recipe in advance, and now I'm going to just start doing that. So I'm taking the spaghetti, and I'm sticking it into the mixture of the water and the spices, which was basically onions and garlic and some salt and pepper and paprika. It was crushed garlic. And by the way, I'll give you this recipe in the notes so that you can follow it. I use a recipe from a woman named Pupa Duet, who's fantastic. Actually, I did something wrong here, so I'm going to put the spaghetti back in here because I was a little anxious, but that's all good. I'll put some of the spaghetti back, and then we'll get it working. See what happens? The magic of videos. So, Pupa is fantastic. She has a book called Aromas of Aleppo, which I'll put the link into the chat as well. But before I put the spaghetti in, taking most of it out, I'm making a double portion of the spaghetti part of it because we're serving other people. I have to mix in some of the other spices and ingredients, like tomato paste, and I actually add a little water, and something that's not in her recipe that I've put in mine, that I actually learned from my ex-wife Nadine, was to add a little bit of orange juice. It gives it a little tang. And there'll be other spices that I'll put in a minute. Whoops! But I'll let you know about that as I go along. It's getting a little weird here, but it's all good. Anyway, so I put that in, and now I'll put the orange juice in, and some of the spices. I have the gloves on because I'll be doing something with the chicken in a minute. So I want to make sure that I do everything, right. And I'm going to shred the chicken. But anyway, so what I'm doing here is I'm adding the things. And the reason I'm doing this here is because I wanted to talk to you about adapting. So that's what happened with me. Before I got divorced, I basically almost never cooked. And that was because, for the most part, Nadine, my first wife, my ex-wife, didn't really like me in the kitchen. She didn't want me there, and she wanted me to stay far away. So I was like, okay, fine. But what happened was, after my divorce, I was living about an hour away from my children. I was living in Brooklyn. They were still living down by the Jersey Shore, where we lived for about 20 years. And they would come to me every other weekend. And when they would come, often we would go to my sister's or my mother for Friday night dinner, because as you know, I'm Orthodox Jewish. I took some of the water from the spaghetti as it was cooking, because it's got some starch in it, which will help the spaghetti when we're putting it in, the stick, to add some more liquid to here. Anyway, so they said, Dad, we don't always want to go to the aunts for meals. Could we sometimes cook? Could we sometimes eat at home? I'm like, okay, but I don't really cook, but if you give me the ability to start cooking, and you let me learn, and you tell me the truth, what you think of my cooking, then we could do that. So they're like, okay, let's try it. So each time I would cook, they would give me their feedback. And by the way, my kids have turned out to be great cooks. My daughters, my sons, they all love to cook. That's a lot of credit to their mom, the woman here. So credit to her for that. And they love the idea of cooking. And my son Mo actually likes to bake as well. So does my daughter Esther. But anyway, so we started to do that. And what happened is, as I got more and more into it, I started enjoying more. This is some extra paprika I'm putting in. And I'm putting in some allspice, which is a big Sephardic spice, and just a drop of cinnamon. Actually, I did it backwards, but that's okay. I'll put a little more allspice then to make up for the cinnamon. But a drop of cinnamon, and now I'll mix it all up and keep it going. So I started cooking. Oh, it smells great. You can smell the allspice. So we started cooking, and as I started to do it, I found myself really enjoying it. You might hear the music in the background. I like to have music playing while I'm working because it's a nice little extra thing. So anyway, I started learning how to cook, and I was really enjoying it. And I realized, and I talked about this in my first book, Recovering from Divorce, that there's always a thing where you're going to have to adapt to what's going on in your life. So that was a big, big lesson for me, because here I am, starting to do something I never did before, and I was enjoying it. And I started cooking more and more. Came to Thanksgiving one year, and I turned to my sisters, and I said, I'd love to cook Friday, Thanksgiving. They're like, really? Yeah. So one of my sisters came. The other ones all had other plans, but they came afterwards. They came for dessert. Getting hot in here. And it was really fantastic. Loved it. Loved having them. Loved the whole experience of doing it. And I got more and better in it. And the better I got, the more I wanted to do it. And I found it very cathartic to sit there and spend time cooking. It got me to think about things, think about everything, and I really started enjoying it. Now, fast forward, and I got into smoking meat and stuff like that. And because they made it easier. There were easier ways, like with pellets and stuff like that, to be able to smoke your meats so that you're not feeling it as much. Not sitting outside. So I started doing that. But what I want to tell you is, guys, it's okay to change. It's okay to adapt to whatever's going on in your life. So take that opportunity and enjoy it and really get into it. It really you could find something that you never thought you'd be into and start doing it. That's what happened with me. So now I'm going to take the spaghetti that I accidentally put in there early and dump it in here. All right, I'm dumping it in here. I like to wear the gloves because I like to keep my hands as clean as possible. I don't want to have my hands all over the food. There's a bunch of reasons. But now I'm mixing up all of the sauce. I don't know how much you can see in the video, but I'm taking the sauce that's on the bottom of the pan and mixing it into the spaghetti to get it all over it. And as I go through, it'll get better and better. So now, here's something else that I do that I started doing a few months ago, and everybody's loving it. Some people do this, some people don't. I take the chicken and I shred it. I shred it into small pieces, and I put it inside. Because what was happening was I'd make the chicken, I'd leave it whole, like this, whole, and stick it right in there. Ooh, look at those juices. Get the juices in there. No, you don't go in there yet. I would leave it whole. And by the way, this pot, was the pot that I originally made the chicken in. Took the chicken out, had the water that was on the bottom of the chicken, the onions and the crushed garlic that was in there, and mixed it all together with the other stuff that I put in, the tomato paste and the more water that I added, and the spices. And the reason why I started cutting up the chicken was because I found that when we would take the chicken out whole, it would start breaking up, and it was hard to handle, but more importantly, there was also a lot of bones. And getting around the bones was a little bit of a pain in the neck. So I said, okay. But they said, Sarita said, why don't you just take the chicken and debone it and shred it? I was like, okay, sounds like a good idea. So that's what I did. There's nothing wrong with figuring out things like that all the time and saying, okay, let me change. So that's what I did. So now what I'm going to do is I take the chicken like this and I break it up. So what I'm going to do is, for now, I'm going to stick it in here. Move this over. Come on out. There you go. This was the top to the roaster. I'll take it. I'll move it over here. And as you see, that's why another reason why I love to use the gloves. And I'm also using, I don't know if you can see it, there's a glove underneath. It's like a cloth glove. I learned this trick from smoking my meat, that it gives me the ability to hold the hot stuff so that I don't have to stop what I'm doing. So I bought the box of the gloves, both different types of gloves, and now I use them. And you see all the skin? I put that on the top. I love the skin. Some people don't, some people do. I love it. So I'll lay it on top of it and let it roast while it's roasting. Because this is going to go back into the oven when I'm done. And it'll cook for a little longer. But today, because I'm cooking this for tomorrow, I'm just going to cook it a little bit, and then the rest will happen tomorrow night tomorrow afternoon, when we get to Maryland, and we settle into a hotel, and we bring Moses, his friend, the food to Moses, his friend. His name is Han. That's his last name. But anyway, and then we'll have a nice weekend. So this is really, for me, it's a lot of fun doing this, especially what I'm doing now. Cutting up the chicken, putting it in there, and all that. So the real main reason I wanted to talk to you today was to talk about adapting. It's okay to find the reasons that are going on in your life and saying, what's happening, and let me adapt to what's going on in my life. See? Bones. Exactly why I'm doing this. And by the way, you could save these bones and cook them later and use them for chicken stock. Not going to do that today, but you could definitely do that. It's a great way. It'll be a little heavy in the paprika though, so just remember that. Well, maybe not so much because most of it's coming out here. But that's something else you can do. If you're one of the people who like to be as sustainable as possible and have as little waste, you can do that. It's all in your hands to do what you want. So anyway, so the more you learn about adapting, and don't be so set in your ways. That was my biggest issue. I was set in my ways. A lot of that had to do with me being a people pleaser, because I was trying to make everybody happy. You've heard me talk about this before. I was a people pleaser, pleasing no one. So the more you get less set in your ways, the more you say, I have to be right, the worse it is. By the way, I'm wearing the jacket because it splashes, and I'd rather it splash on a coat, like this is my apron, than on my clothes. So, so this is what we're doing now. So it's breaking up. You see look how gorgeous that looks. Look how great this all looks. Cut up. Fantastic. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it into the chicken, into the spaghetti. First I want to make sure that I've gotten all the chicken out of it. Move this out of the way. Okay, because what I can do is keep on breaking it up, and when I think there's enough bones out of it, stick the dirty bones, finished bones, into the other pot. So yeah, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. And adapting is part of what I talk about, and you could learn all about the things that I do in going to my video, to my channels, and you could go to connectwithmartin.com. That's a great way to find out about stuff that's going on. As of shooting this video, I'm about to release my Warrior to Warrior card deck, which is an adjunct or an addition to my coaching course, the Warrior to Warrior coaching course. And what's great about that is it works whether you've taken the course or not. So you can get on the link there and take a look at that, see those. I'm always doing different talks, so you could click on there and see what's going on. And of course, I'm doing group coaching and all different stuff. So, but that's not what this is about. I'm just mentioning that so that my people say, "Oh, did you mention it?" And I go, "Yes, I did." And this is the neck. It seems that nobody loves the neck, but the meat from is good. So I'll slowly get that off, and I'll get the rest. Do rid of the rest of the neck, and I put the thing. All right, you see, I'm almost done. See, these bones go in here. Oops, clean that up after. Oh, by the way, I'm crazy clean in the kitchen. I'm not so clean other places, but I'm pretty clean when it comes to the kitchen. I don't know what it is. It's just the way I am. So, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed learning about a new dish, and more importantly, learning about what I wanted to talk about today, which was adapting to what's going on around you. So I'd love to get your comments. If you want me to cook more, tell me some things you'd like me to cook. Or, you know, if you like the idea of me doing this like this, great. If not, tell me that too. I'm okay. One of the things is, I used to take things personally because being a people pleaser, I took everything personally. I'm not like that anymore. So it's okay. Tell me, I want to learn. And that was what was happening when I was learning how to cook. Because by then I'd already started I'd done most of my coaching course, my learning about coaching, and I learned how to not take those things personally. And since then I've grown even more. So I don't take as much personally. look at the stuff in here. This is gold. This is gold. We want that in there too. All those juices, they're fantastic. Everything that came from the chicken. So let me know. Tell me what you think, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll do it again if you'd like. Have a great day. Enjoy life, and don't forget, live incredibly full every day.